Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video for EVE Online. Recently I've been running a little mini-series taking a look at each of the individual heavy assault cruisers in Class 3 J-Space ratting anomalies. The aim has been to find if each of those heavy assault cruisers can do all 4 of the C3 combat sites using just one fit, and it's been a lot of fun running this and trying all these different heavy assault cruisers and trying to find something that will work for them. This has given, in my mind, a very clear list of which ones work and which ones don't, and a lot of you have been commenting and asking, am I going to be doing a roundup at the end of this where I talk about all of them in order and which one I think is the best option for C3 J-Space ratting? And well, that's what this video is, so well done for your patience. Thank you for joining me in this one, and hopefully you'll, well, find out something interesting, because this list, it's been a lot of fun to make, a lot of fun to put together, and it's got some fairly controversial stuff in it, so yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy that. Now, if you do enjoy this video or find it useful, please let me know. Hit like, drop a comment down below. Both really help this channel out, but if you do want to go the extra mile to help support me and keep me making content like this, you can do so by heading across to my Patreon page, my PayPal tip jar, or even my Redbubble merchandise store. If you're new to EVE Online, I do have a referral link that you can click in the description down below. I will get a small kickback and you will earn 1 million free skill points. Excellent start to your career in EVE Online. Finally, if you do want to have more of a chat about all things EVE Online or even join the Catskull Cartel out in space, then you can do so by joining the Catskull Community Discord linked in the description of this very video. Load of really cool folks there who love chatting all things EVE Online. Would love to have you with us and talk about the game. All that said and done then, let's jump right into this list. I think it's safe to say that I'm not a fan of the Ishtar. I find the concept of AFK ratting dull as dishwater, and that's kinda synonymous with the Ishtar, or Isktar as it's often referred, making it offensively popular in nullsec. However, despite its prestige in K-Space ratting, it simply does not work for Class 3 J-Space. Now, I spent weeks flying it and simply couldn't find a single fit that would run anything beyond the Fortification Frontier Stronghold, let alone a single fit that could run all 4 sites. Personal opinions and flight styles simply do not matter when the assignment was one fit for all 4 sites, and the Ishtar couldn't do even that, not even remotely. Drone aggro in J-Space is absolutely a thing, and it's the Ishtar's downfall. Your damage output relies heavily on keeping your drones on target, and constantly having to recall and resend is just awful, not to mention the constant threat of losing drones. I did try sentries too, but these struggled against frigates and ultimately got eaten every time. Finally, in order to even get a workable DPS out of the ship, you are essentially forced to shield tank it, and the Ishtar simply does not have enough shield hit points to be able to absorb the larger hits from sleeper battleships, even with the assault damage control active. Nor is it capable of reliably signature tanking those shots. A couple of decent hits, and the Ishtar is rubble. All in all, despite its popularity and status in K-Space, the Isktar simply does not work in J-Space C3 ratting. Despite my in-game leanings as a Minotaur fanboy, I am actually surprised to see an Amar ship this far down the list. Much to my chagrin, several of the best ships for J-Space ratting have been Amarian vessels, with ships like the Harbinger, Confessor, and Legion being popular amongst J-Space pilots. Due to the Sleeper's Omni-Resists, one of the biggest downsides of lasers, their lack of damage type selection, is rendered moot, and the Zealot packs a serious laser wallop, with bonuses to both rate of fire and damage. The reduction to laser capacitor usage and increase to range also really help with dealing with awakened upholders orbiting at 30 kilometers and all the neutralization going around in these sites. Unfortunately, the Zealot simply lacks the survivability required of heavy assault cruisers in C3 J-Space ratting. It lacks the passive resistance bonuses or active rep bonuses found on other heavy assault cruisers, so whilst its tank looks solid on paper, it simply doesn't hold up in practice. In order to survive the Outpost Frontier Stronghold, the Zealot needed to be significantly blinged and lost the capacitor stability required to survive the first wave of the Aru's construct. Still, 3 out of 4 sights isn't bad at all, especially for a filthy Amarian vessel, leaving the Zealot as a serviceable option for C3 ratting, if not entirely optimal. The Eagle is a mower hull with strong bonuses to shields, a solid capacitor, and decent hybrid turret skills. It's a solid and versatile vessel that's the first one on this list actually capable of clearing all 4 C3 sights with just one fit. By utilising long-range railguns, the Eagle can comfortably handle almost every target that it'll come across in a C3 combat site using just javelin ammunition, which gives it solid DPS and somewhat decent clear times. Unfortunately, those awakened upholders tend to orbit right at the very edge of fall-off, which significantly reduces the Eagle's DPS against these targets, making for slightly drawn-out kill times in sites that have several of these vessels. Admittedly, this does come with the flip side of never having to worry about ammo swapping, as Spike is simply way too long range and low DPS to worry about much. Javelin gets the job done better, even if it is low DPS for the duration of killing an awakened upholder. It should be noted that of the 8 Empire heavy assault cruisers on this list, the Eagle is also the most expensive. That said, thanks to its passive shield resistance bonus, the Eagle is a solid vessel that's very straightforward to fly, making it a reliable, if slightly lower DPS and more expensive option for Class 3 ratting. Coming in at number 6 is the Triglavian collective Ikatasa, a ship that I personally really enjoyed whilst making this series. Heavy entropic disintegrators have decent enough range, excellent tracking, and brilliant damage, allowing the Ikatasa to comfortably handle pretty much any ship in a C3 site quickly and efficiently. In fact, the issue of a slow ramp-up time with disintegrators doesn't really matter when the Ikatasa starts that ramp at similar DPS to several other heavy assault cruisers on this list, and when given time to spool up can massively out-DPS any of the others. In fact, against the battleships found in these sites, the Ikatasa reliably doubles the DPS output of any of the other heavy assault cruisers in this video. In fact, despite lacking any bonuses to its tank, the Ikatasa is also an incredibly solid ship that survives even the tougher waves of sites like the Outpost Frontier Stronghold without much issue at all. So why is it so low down on this list? Simply put, cost. Whereas the other heavy assault cruisers on this list range from 200 to 600 million ISK to buy and fit, the Ikatasa is over 1 billion, and that's before accounting for the precursor skill books needed to fly it and use the weaponry. If this cost investment weren't an issue or consideration, then the Ikatasa would score significantly higher on this list, easily breaking the top 5, but when it costs literally double if not triple the price of every other close alternative, it does sadly become harder to recommend the Ikatasa. Having started the bottom of this list with the Galente ship, I was honestly expecting the Dimos to come in further than it has, and before we go any further, I absolutely need to make clear how bloody close these top 5 are in my mind. This just proves my point about how subjective all of this is, and why I advocate flying the ships that you enjoy, rather than watching some top 9 ships list put out by some jumped up YouTuber who probably doesn't know what he's talking about. That all said, the Dimos astonished me as a ship when I was testing it. It's surprisingly agile and has good bonuses to both range and damage of hybrid turrets, which allows it to keep range with blasters surprisingly well. In order to handle the Class 3 defining awakened upholders, we do need to swap from Void to Null ammo, which does significantly impact the DPS of the Dimos for that duration. Once back in close range and using Void ammunition though, its firepower is frankly terrifying, and as is the amount of damage it can shrug off thanks to its hefty armor repairer bonuses. Of all of the heavy assault cruisers on this list, the Dimos is likely the easiest to fly, as it can even fly in a direct straight line at the battleships of the Outpost Frontier Stronghold and shrug off the incoming damage. It's a ship for folks who don't want to think too hard and just want to hit other ships as hard as they can until the other ship stops moving. It's a simple, blunt tool for Class 3 ratting, but by heck does it get the job done. The first Minotaur ship to grace this list, the Munin, comes in at number 4. The Munin is an interesting vessel in that it has bonuses to both shield and armor resistances, and ultimately can support fits either way. Those resistance bonuses aren't as strong as perhaps those found on the Eagle or the Sacrilege, but they're more than sufficient to keep the Munin flying through otherwise withering firepower. In fact, thanks to its bonuses to rate of fire, damage, and application, the Munin is capable of kicking out its own firestorm of damage with full damage type selection, although admittedly that's fairly mute a concept in J-Space. Really, the only thing to drag the Munin back is its lack of ranging. The ability to apply damage over 30 kilometers is a requirement for see-through ratting, and this is something that the Munin does perhaps struggle with and requires special consideration. This does somewhat increase the cost of the fit. Though slightly more expensive than some of its compatriots, it's an exceptionally straightforward ship to fly that punches astonishingly hard and applies really well to the frigates in these waves. Basically, just orbit and fire away. I love this ship. The Minotaur Vagabond is actually my personal favourite of all the heavy assault cruisers on this list. It's small, fast, and armed to the hind teeth with powerful cannons that hit harder, faster, and further out thanks to its bonuses. The beauty of Sleepers having omni-resists also means we don't have to worry about damage type selection when ratting class 3 anomalies, so we can follow the age-old adage of load hail, never fail, right up until the awakened upholders spawn, and you have to swap to barrage briefly. Oh no, how awful. This gives the Vagabond frankly terrifying firepower thanks to its bonuses attacking the DPS equation from both sides, and its range bonuses give it a slow and gentle fall-off, meaning it does actually apply that DPS really well to pretty much everything it encounters, making it less range sensitive than some of its other turret counterparts like the Dimos. With bonuses to shield boosters only, the Vagabond is perhaps a little less versatile than the Munin, and it does cost a little more too, but the fearsome firepower of the Vagabond makes it a force to be reckoned with. It's simple to fly, fast, and has excellent clear times in all 4 sights thanks to the astonishing range of barrage ammunition. This just squeaks the Vagabond ahead of the Munin to take the number 3 slot on this list. I should point out again that the top 5 slots on this list are all incredibly close, and personal preference should absolutely be the deciding factor if you're looking for a new heavy assault cruiser to fly. But the top 2, these were as tight as catfish gills. I wrote and rewrote this section multiple times over the course of a week before finally deciding to put the Cerberus into second place. The Cerberus is an astonishing vessel. It has powerful active shield tank bonuses and the capacitor to back it up, making it a remarkably solid vessel to fly. It has great bonuses to both missile rate of fire and damage attacking the DPS equation from both sides, and has utterly disgusting range bonuses to heavy assault missiles. Ultimately, this doubling of the heavy assault missile range, combined with the fact that the Cerberus is a surprisingly nimble and agile vessel by Caldari standards at least, means that its punishing barrage of hams are almost always in range, reducing the downtime between targets. So why does it only take second place? In short, because of the skill investment required. When flying a heavy assault cruiser, you must have the racial cruiser skill maxed, but the heavy assault cruiser skill is somewhat optional. Many ships on this list can be undocked and run effectively as low as Heavy Assault Cruiser 3, but the Cerberus almost demands Heavy Assault Cruiser 5, as the tanking bonuses are on that Heavy Assault Cruiser skill here, not the Racial Cruiser skill. In addition to this, in order to maintain decent capacitor stability under the heavy neutralizing of certain C3 sites, the Cerberus does rely a little heavier on good capacitor skills too. Some of this can be alleviated through blingier modules whilst you train the requisite skills higher, but this does all just mean that the Cerberus is just that little bit more sensitive to your SP allocation. With the right skills, it is godly, but it just requires that little bit more investment to get properly running. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be running with the statement that the Sacrilege is totally not an Amarr Empire ship, it's Carnid Kingdom, right? Which work alongside the Caldari state. This helps the Minotaur fanboy in me cope with the fact that the Sacrilege has taken the top spot on this list. With bonuses to armor resistance, the Sacrilege is remarkably tanky, taking very little damage from even the most punishing of combat waves. This allows even cheaper repair modules to keep up with incoming damage, which helps keep the costs down without sacrificing on survivability. In fact, the Sacrilege that I personally run for Class 3 sites comes in at only a little more than 250 million ISK at the time of me making this video, making it the cheapest of all the heavy assault cruisers that I run. Don't let this cost fool you, however. With bonuses to missile damage, rate of fire, and range, the Sacrilege has some fearsome firepower more than capable of quickly clearing Class 3 sites. Whilst it does have lower range bonuses than the Cerberus, it's capable of launching a full flight of medium drones to really up the damage output from a distance. What this means is that the Sacrilege is a surprisingly cheap heavy assault cruiser, capable of both dealing out and dealing with surprising amounts of firepower. It's relatively straightforward to fly, and the skill investment isn't as large as some of the other heavy assault cruisers like the Ikatasa or the Cerberus. It may pain me to put an Amarrian ship this high on the list, but there is no denying just how potent and powerful the Sacrilege is. And there you have it, folks, my personal list of the 9 heavy assault cruisers in the context of Class 3 J-Space ratting. I should absolutely reiterate that essentially the top 5 of these are ridiculously close together. I would say that yes, the Zealot and the Ishtar are probably not great options, and the Ikatasa is a lot more expensive than the alternatives, but essentially from the Ikatasa upwards on this list, they are all very close together. That means if you have a personal preference for one of these ships, ignore the fact that it's lower down the list. There is so little difference between them that if you prefer, say, the Munin over the Cerberus, go for it. The clear times are so close together, the costs are not all that far apart either. If you enjoy flying one ship over another, you're going to have more fun. And remember, EVE Online is a video game. It is supposed to be all about you having the fun, right? Ultimately, anything apart from those first 2 ships of the Zealot and the Ishtar are excellent options. To give a brief rundown though, just for those of you who just want to have a quick thought about it all at the end, if you're going for anything, if you don't have skills and you're planning to move into some of these, then it's entirely up to what kind of ship you want to fly. If you like missiles, then obviously the Sacrilege, the Cerberus, and the Munin are all excellent options for you. If you're a projectile turret kind of pilot, the Vagabond, personally, it's my favourite. I think it's a brilliant ship. It does really, really well in these ratting environments. Hybrids, you get the awesome Dimos, and you can even make the Eagle work. Yeah, the Eagle's a little bit more expensive and has slightly lower clear times, but it still works. It's functional, and if it's a ship you enjoy flying, you're going to, well, enjoy flying it. And if you're going to enjoy your time in J-Space ratting, you're likely to do more of it and get more ISK than if you're doing it in a ship you don't enjoy flying, right? In fact, energy turrets are probably the only weapon system that does actively suffer here, because the only energy turret using heavy assault cruiser is the Zealot, which can't really clear all 4 sites. It does really struggle on the final wave of the Arus, and it really struggles on the outpost frontier. You're either going to have to warp out repeatedly, or you're going to have to bling it out the wazoo. It's just not a great option. In fact, if you are an energy turret pilot, you're probably just going to want to skill straight into something like the Legion, which will run those sites a little bit better, although again, for a lot more significant cost. When it comes down to it, C2 ratting in energy turrets works really well. There's a lot of viable options for that, but C3... yeah, you really start to struggle until you're going up to something like a Paladin, which just seems excessive. But hey, that's, I suppose, that's the price you pay for being a, God-fearing laser monkey. But there we go. Beyond that, though, if you're shield, I would suggest looking at the Cerberus, the Vagabond, or the Munin, and if you're looking at armor tanking, then the Sacrilege and the Dimos are both excellent options, or the Ikatasa, if you're willing to spend just that little bit more on the vessel you're going to be using. Anyway folks, that's it for this video. Please do let me know which of these ships is your favourite. Which one are you flying? Do you disagree with this list and think that something should be the other way around? And if so, why? Love hearing your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. It inspires me to make content like this. A lot of the content that I make is inspired by comments of people asking, hey, this would be cool, that would be cool, here's an idea for you. If you do want to get your voice extra heard though, come join me on Patreon. It's an excellent way to get in contact with me, support the channel at the same time, and sort of see things done your way. Anyway folks, thank you for watching this one right the way through to the end. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!